Well, the locks have gone, but the talent remains. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm AT Show welcome to Michael Bolton. It's when I have to reel off the list of everything that's gone by, but of course you've now done it yourself in a way with Michael Bolton, the biography, the soul of it all.
Yes.
You didn't start out what might surprise people. You started out doing rock. I mean, way back.
Well, I was doing rhythm and blues, and nobody wanted to know about that. And then I went into rock, and I started being offered record deals, and I basically kept getting these letters. I would put out a rock record, and then a year later, I would get this letter that would become the story of my life for 18 years that said, "You are now free to sign with whoever you'd like." And I would say, "What does this mean?" The first time, anyway. And my band members would say, "That means they dropped us. We're not signed to them anymore." It's like getting a letter from your girlfriend saying, "You are now free to date whoever you'd like." But this letter would come every 2 years to me with album after album after album. And it was signed when I was 16. I didn't have a hit till I was 34. So it was 18 years, 9 albums.
Persistence pays off.
It definitely does, yeah.
But were you always making the kind of music you liked, or did you feel that in those early years you were being forced, not manufactured so much as forced to produce a certain kind of music? Did freedom come later, as far as expression was concerned?
Freedom came later, and I have to admit that I accidentally found my strength, because I was putting out these records that were doing okay. You know, like my family would buy 2 copies apiece, and that helped. And so we'd sell 9 copies on those albums. And then every once in a while we had a near hit. You know, the single would go flying up the charts, and then it looked like I was finally going to have a career, and then we'd hit a wall. And then one day the president of Columbia Records said, "I want a meeting in my office," which is like getting called into the principal's office, basically. And he said, "Look, I've done 2 albums with you. It's Columbia Records, one of the biggest labels in the world. We've really tried. And these songs that you're writing for other people on the side," which is how I was feeding my family, he said, the secretaries are taking those tapes home. They want to hear you singing those songs.
Ah.
And I said, "So you're saying you want to make another record with me?" And he said, "Yes, but I want to make that kind of record."
So was that the turning point? That's when it suddenly
That was the pivotal,
shut
that was
up.
the absolute big, giant, defining moment, was that meeting in that record company office, where somebody who was just observing and believed in me as a singer, he said, "Your strength is delivering a 3-minute story about something that matters. And let go of the wall of sound, let go of the big production, and keep those hits for yourself."
Yeah.
And that was in '87. That's What Love Is All About. It was the first hit. And my version of Dock of the Bay of the Otis Redding Standard became a huge hit. And next thing I knew, I was selling 10 million albums a clip.
You've played with all kinds of folk. So it's in the book, the various people you've worked. The biggest thrills, what were your greatest moments in terms of your point of view of working with other people?
Well, there were quite a few I was really, really fortunate to have, especially after all the years it took. Ray Charles, singing with Ray Charles was a really big, important moment in my life. I had been nominated for a Grammy, had a huge record with Georgia on My Mind, and I got a phone call that Ray was having his 35th anniversary on TV, and I wound up singing Georgia with him, which was just surreal.
Oh, I mean, how do you make any words come out your mouth when you're asked to do that? It must be so overwhelming in a way.
It is overwhelming, and you're absolutely a nervous wreck. And it doesn't matter how much success you've had at that point. These are the icons who were inspiring to you as a kid, and you are. And I hope I'm always. Just a huge fan of artists, but you get nervous, and fortunately, the right things come out of your mouth. If you're grateful to that artist being inspiring. Ray Charles inspired me so much. When I met him, I walked over to him and I said, "The student finally meets the master," and he just grinned, ear to ear grin, and that's how our relationship started. And we performed 3 times together. And I sang Georgia to him while he was being inducted into the Hall of Fame.
My goodness.
Meeting Bob Dylan, writing with Bob Dylan was another, knee, shaking.
Dare you say anything when you're writing with Bob Dylan? Do you wait to be asked to chip in with a bit, or do you come in with anything?
A really good question, because he came up with a lyric. We were, planning on writing, and I had heard if Dylan doesn't love what you're writing, you may never hear from him again. As a matter of fact, it was likely that you'll never hear from him again, so he's so busy. And so I wanted to make sure, and I worked on all these ideas and came to him, canceled everything I was doing, and sat there. And then the first thing he said was, so you wanted to do some writing? And I went, oh God, this is Bob Dylan. And I just became a nervous wreck. And then he spoke for the next couple minutes, and all I was thinking was, oh my God, this is Bob Dylan. And
Talking to me.
Yeah. And everything was like this, Michael, you should go in the hills, take your four-wheel drive. And I was thinking, I wish I could write all this and you could use it in the song. We started writing the song, and he came up with one lyric that had too many syllables. He said, how about it was your resistance, it was my persistence. And I thought, oh, I would love to be able to use that, but it's too many lyrics. How am I going to tell him? It's like telling Shakespeare to change it. For me, that line, there's something about that line that's got to go. And then suddenly he said, oh, that's too much, that's too much. And I was like, oh, thank God again.
Oh, yeah,
so we finished that song, it became a big hit on Time, Love, and Tenderness album, and that's a forever moment in time, that one of the high points. And Pavarotti, singing with Pavarotti.
Singing with Pavarotti.
That might have been, ultimately the most important.
Yeah.
Because it made me look at my voice in a different way and put a bigger engine in the same vehicle. I went to work after working with him.
Interested that you should work after Pavarotti, an operatic singer should change the way you perform. You're touring, so we'll get to see you on tour.
Yes, I'm touring. When am I coming? Mid-April, May? I don't know if you have all the dates. Fortunately,
in May. Yeah.
In May. Thank you.
If it's Tuesday, it's actually Monday.
Yeah.
It must be May.
It's all one long day.
Michael's book is out now, and the new album, Ain't No Mountain High Enough, this is it, with a photograph of himself on the cover, will be out early next year. My thanks, fascinating stories, to Michael Bolton. Thank you, Michael.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.
Now it's official. Making your own jams and condiments is cool again. It's recently